Hey, it's W5HRO. Well, I'm doing some more work on this transmitter again. I finally got back around to it. I kind of put everything on hold while I was setting up my new Kenwood TS590SG station and this SDR play adapter to get the spectrum output. This thing works great. I'm having a blast with this. I still haven't had a chance to build the shelf for the middle of the desk yet, so I can get everything, get the monitor on top and all that. I've been too busy. We just got back from Lake Tahoe. We went there last night or yesterday afternoon, and we spent the night and had dinner at a nice restaurant up there in the Harris, how do you pronounce it, Harris Hotel. We go there a couple, 2-3 times a year. But what I'm doing is, I'm building my TR switch, and I just got it all wired up a little bit ago. I just need to take the acid brush, a little bit of acetone, get all the flux off the connections, and I'm going to put the other part of it. This is the other part of it here. And it came with this, blue plastic on it, so when you're working on it, you wouldn't, like when you're drilling holes, you wouldn't scratch it all up and everything. So see, it turned out beautiful. Let me turn it around the right way here. And the top one, there's the antenna. The one on the right's for the transmitter, and the one on the left's for the receive. And what it's going to do is, see, I've got this screw. My ground mounting stud for the transmitter has always been up here, and I've never really used it. So what I'm doing is, I'm going to mount this sucker. Look what I'm doing right here. Let me see if I can line. Where's the screw? There. That's where the thing's going to mount. Perfect. And I've got the wing nut right there and the washer and stuff, and the nut's going to go on there first. There's got to be the washer, then the nut tightened down, then the wing nut goes over all that. But I have everything to connect this thing. And I built this thing last week, and I drilled all the holes, and I just got it all wired up today. And let me show you the schematic. It's going to be a pretty simple thing, because I decided the best solution here, I'm still using this darn old Radio Shack Archer antenna switch, and sometimes I start transmitting on this thing and I forget to throw the switch, and I look over and the screen current's pegged out, etc., 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 and I'm like, whoa. Luckily, I've never left it on long enough to mess it up. But there's the schematic that I drew up there on the LT Spice program, and that's it. Basically, the antenna goes here, and what I'm doing is, I decided the TR switch, the easiest thing to do is make the antenna TR switch for all my stuff and this transmitter inside the top of this thing, like I'm doing here. And I'm going to use this old jack here for the receiver output, or the transceiver. This is basically, my antenna is always going to go here. My antenna is always going to connect to the top of the transmitter right here through the SO239 jack that's on here. That's going to be my antenna system, screws in there all the time. That's where it's going to go. And eventually I might put a bigger, like a manual antenna tuner up above on top of it. But for right now, I've got I have the stepper tune box and the remote controlled tuning for the antenna at the base of it. But I may eventually also get a manual tuner up here someday too, to have, just if I want to switch it to that instead. But that's going to be basically, when I plug the antenna in here, the normal default, it's always going to be coming out here. So basically, I can run this to my receivers, or I can transmit through this thing. And then when I transmit on this guy, on this big transmitter, the relays in that box are going to click. It's going to ground the receiver. It's going to ground the center conductor here to ground, so the thing's shut off to the receivers and the Kenwood and so forth. And then the transmitter here gets fed up through. I'm going to redo all these coax cables, and this is going to go up to that box up here. And then there's going to be the other one that's going to go down here to this jack. And that's how I'm doing it. The TR switch is always going to be inside this thing. So normally, when the antenna's up here, it's always coming out here until I transmit on this big guy. And I also have, when I set this up to use this solid state relay, which got shorted, which I've determined I really don't need it anyway, I'm actually going to remove that. And by the way, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to take that heat sink off, and I'm going to cut a piece of perf board the exact same size, and get the mounting holes exact same place for this heat sink. And I'm just going to add more caps on that supply to stiffen it up a little bit more. I'm going to put a lot more capacitance on there. And I've got all the parts. I was already going to do that. I've been working on this guy, like I said, and I just haven't got around to doing it. But I have all the new caps for it. I'm going to have a couple 500 volt caps in series. I think it's going to add I'm going to do the 2 in parallel with, there's going to be 2 in series with, and parallel with 2 in series. So I'm going to add an extra 100 mic to this thing is what it's going to be. So that'll, for that keep alive supply. So I'm basically just going to add extra storage right here. I'll just put that into place and I'll wire it all up. It's a piece of cake because all the connections are right there. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to remove that relay and add that storage bank there to give the keep alive supply for the 3 diode limiter, you know, a little bit more storage. And that'll help it some more even. So that's a good thing. So, but all the connections are there. But so basically, this is going to be the RCA out to the TR switch to give the 12 volts to the relays, and then they won't be engaged. The coils won't get engaged until this other RCA jack here. This is my line here. So when I push the talk on the microphone, this line gets grounded to chassis ground, and I've also got a jumper in there where it'll come out this RCA. So that'll be, so when I transmit on this guy, I do hit the PTT, it'll ground the line in the relay box to engage the relays and switch it to transmit. So it's going to be this guy, the output of this guy is going to be going up through it and coming out the antenna, basically. So that's how I'm doing it. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get the flux. I'm going to remove all this stuff off of here, get it all cleaned up. I'm going to put the other part on it. I'm going to pull that blue plastic off, and I'm going to get this guy mounted. I'm going to eventually get it all working here, and maybe by next weekend I'll do one more follow-up video, but that's how I'm doing it. My TR switch is going to be up here in the transmitter, which makes the most sense. My antenna will always be plugged into this guy, and it'll be defaulted, like I said. If you look at the way I've got this, I'm just calling this RX, you know. Basically, it's just going to be, it's just the antenna comes in, and it just gets routed right out here to this other connector, see, all the time, which will be that one there on the back of the transmitter down lower. So that's it. And then this is going to be the one that the RF deck here in the homebrew transmitter transmits into when this thing, the relay switch. So it's a pretty simple fix and a pretty simple modification, because I need to get rid of that manual switch so that way I won't forget to switch that box, because this was just a temporary thing and I've just left it there and I haven't had a chance to get around to it. By the way, 17's wide open today. So is 10 and 15's been doing good too.
If you know what I mean, Udo. 73 is the very best, and before you go, can you let me know what my signal report is? I think I missed that one. Alpha Delta 5 Radio Quebec Portable, VE7 Florida Echo.
VE7, so that's what, he's in Canada? Is VE7 Canada? I know VE's usually Canada. So I haven't really thought about it in a long time. So that's all I have for now. Like I said, when I get this thing all buttoned up in there and get it all wired up and working by next weekend, I'll do one more follow-up video. So that's all for now. This is W5HRO 73s.